Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called PaperShell.
Hey there, I've been hearing whispers about your interest in sustainable materials. And guess what? I found a company, PaperShell. They're using something totally unexpected to shake things up, paper.
And not just like replacing paper clips or something. We're talking going after plastic, going after metal even. What's really remarkable is how they're approaching the whole thing, like thinking about the entire life cycle of a product.
Yeah.
Minimizing environmental impact, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, no wonder Wired magazine named them one of Europe's hottest startups for 2024. But paper replacing plastic, seriously,
Yeah.
how strong can that be?
Okay, so imagine you've got like 29 sheets of craft paper, the sturdy kind.
Okay.
But this paper, it's made from sawdust and wood chips, basically byproducts, stuff that usually just gets wasted.
So they're starting with recycled materials.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. But 29 sheets, that's it. What do they do? Like weave it together,
Yeah.
laminate it or something?
This is where things get really ingenious. They press those 29 layers together. They use a natural resin, and it creates this super strong, durable material. Think like plywood, but with paper. And a natural bonding agent instead of all those nasty chemicals. Oh, and get this, you can mold it into 3D shapes.
So like sculpted cardboard? Okay, my mind is starting to wrap around this. But let's talk about aesthetics for a sec. I'm picturing something very, rustic,
Right.
DIY. Does this stuff actually look good? Like good enough to have in your home?
You'd be surprised. This is where their partnership with Arper comes in. They're an Italian furniture design company known for their really sleek, modern designs. And they've actually reimagined Arper's iconic Katifa 53 office chair using PaperShell for the seat.
A chair
Yeah.
made entirely of paper. That's wild. We're not talking about those like flimsy folding chairs you take to a picnic, right?
Right. Tell me more about how that's even possible.
Okay, so it's actually a perfect example of what we call aesthetic sustainability. You know how sometimes you get tired of things
Yeah.
and you end up replacing them kind of quickly?
Well, imagine if everything you owned was so well made and so beautiful that you wanted to keep it forever. That's a huge part of sustainability, choosing lasting quality over fleeting trends.
Interesting. So they managed to make a chair out of a paper that's built to last, not, just tossed out after a few uses. But did they go with a completely different look? Or is it still recognizable as a Katifa chair?
They decided to keep that classic Katifa elegance, that sleek silhouette, the minimalist legs, the gently sloping back.
Okay, so the shape is familiar, but what about the actual material? I mean, it's paper, right? Did they paint it, cover it with fabric or something?
That's the interesting part. They actually left the paper shell totally exposed.
Right, really? You
Yeah.
can see the paper layers.
Yeah. It's got this dark, almost wood-like finish. And because the paper is natural, each chair has these unique imperfections and patterns. It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I can see that. So it's not trying to be something. It's not hiding the fact that it's made of paper.
Exactly. It's like they're embracing the material. And I think it adds a really interesting tactile quality you wouldn't get with plastic or metal.
For sure. Okay. So they've mastered the chair. What else can they make with this PaperShell stuff? There's got to be more, right?
Oh, yeah. The chair's just the beginning. They've got big plans for this material.
Like what? Hit me with it.
Okay, well, imagine buildings made partly of paper.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah, they're talking about using it for facade panels, even car components. Lighter cars mean less fuel consumption, so, smaller carbon footprint.
Wow, from chairs to cars to buildings. This is amazing.
And there's more. They've designed a bicycle saddle with PaperShell. They're partnering with a company called Melter of Sweden to create a component for a climate-neutral snowmobile. They're calling it the Paper Tail.
A paper snowmobile part.
Yeah, and get this, they're working with a company called Pricer to make electronic price tags.
Electronic price tags.
Yep.
Out of paper.
Yep. Those things are everywhere, and they get replaced constantly.
That's true. I never really thought about it.
It's a prime example of how PaperShell can make everyday things more sustainable.
It's not just like a niche thing for fancy furniture.
Right. It's going mainstream.
So just to recap, they're aiming to replace things like plastic, aluminum, even fiberglass. And you mentioned this whole circular thing. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means that when a PaperShell product reaches the end of its life, it can be broken down and used to create new PaperShell.
So it's like recycling on another level.
Yeah, exactly. But instead of downcycling into something less valuable, you're creating a closed loop. You're generating high-quality material that can be used again and again.
Okay, I see. A closed loop system. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it gets even better, right? You mentioned biochar earlier.
Oh, yeah. Remember how PaperShell is made from sawdust and wood chips?
Right. Byproducts from the wood industry.
Exactly. Well, at the end of its life cycle, PaperShell can actually be transformed into biochar.
Biochar, help me out here.
It's a type of charcoal, and it's super stable. Like, it can store carbon for a really, really long time, which prevents it from being released back into the atmosphere.
So it doesn't decompose and release carbon, it actually traps it.
Exactly. And it gets even better, that biochar. You can use it to enrich soil, which means even more carbon sequestration. Plus, it helps plants grow like crazy.
So you're saying my old PaperShell chair could help grow a forest someday. That's incredible. This material really does seem like the total package.
That's a win-win, Good for the environment, good for pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And they're not just swapping out one material for another. They're rethinking the whole process, from design to production. And they've managed to create a material that can reduce CO2e by up to 98%, compared to the traditional options, that is, depending on the application, of course.
Yeah, that's huge. It's like they took this simple idea, paper, and through some really smart engineering, some clever design, they transformed it into this incredibly versatile, sustainable, and beautiful material. It really makes you wonder, what else could we be doing? What other everyday product needs a PaperShell makeover?
It really gets you thinking.
If you're as excited about the future of sustainable materials as I am, head over to PaperShell's website. We'll drop a link in the show notes for you. And that's it for today's deep dive. Until next time. Stay curious and keep your eyes peeled for the innovations that are shaping our world.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.